Got a lot to get into. I am pretty tired. It's the first 2 tournament week of the PGA Tour season, so it feels like I have not left the computer in 4 days. So before I run out of all of my energy, let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is simply the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler, much better DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram. This is where I post research throughout the week. I did so for both tournaments this week. And also over on Twitter is where my betting card will be put up at the conclusion of the show. So if you want to see the summary of the research that I do and post to social media, give me a follow there at those 2 links. If you want to see the betting cards that I have every week for the golf tournaments, give me a follow over at Twitter. And then the link to my Twitch channel is also in the description. This is where I do a lot of my in-depth research. Most of my baseball content will be over there when baseball season starts up, and as well as some gaming and other things. So if you're interested in non-golf content, give me a follow over at Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open. How or what questions you have for the API? This player versus that player. Are you factoring in the wind like I am? Who are your pivots? Who are your fades? Do you have any 6K plays? All the good stuff. So let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Arnold Palmer Invitational. And we're going to start over at Windfinder. And I will explain to you why I see a pretty significant split. And hopefully, there we go, the camera will focus in. So you see the forecast for tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow looks pretty even in terms of a favor, as in neither the morning or afternoon waves seem to have the better of it. Sustained winds, maybe 8 to 10 mile an hour. If you wanted to argue that the morning could have it a slightly worse, I wouldn't bat too much of an eye at it, since they have the calmer winds and more of the gusts. But really, it looks pretty even keeled for Thursday. Now, Friday is where it changes. Friday, you can see in the afternoon, the wind really looks like it's going to start to pick up. 30 mile an hour gusts, even sustained winds into the 20s perhaps, whereas they still have to deal with wind in the morning, but certainly not to the level that they are in the afternoon. So because of that, because there's seemingly one really bad portion of the cut portion of the week, Friday afternoon, I've got a pretty significant favor for Thursday PM, Friday AM. Basically just trying to avoid as much of Friday afternoon as I can. Now, there are a couple of players that I am going to still use, even though they are in the Thursday morning, Friday afternoon tee time. Having said that, any tiebreaker scenario will definitely go to the Thursday PM, Friday AM player, or if anyone is really spectacular in the wind, for sure. Evening P, glad to see you in chat. Feel like a lot has happened, even from last night and when you joined the Puerto Rico show. Beetlejuice is no longer your mayor, so congratulations on that, at least. But thanks for jumping in chat. Really appreciate it. Hey, James, how you doing? Good to see you in chat as well. Are you ready for the Arnold Palmer, all of that good stuff? We're one of the 2 left in the runoff. Might not be much better. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't live in Chicago, so I don't know much about it. But there was a reason. Chicago was being laughed at and all that stuff. But But thanks to both of you for jumping into chat. Looking forward to it. Just going through the wind here. And again, I really, really prefer a Thursday PM, Friday AM split. I am trying to avoid as much of this afternoon just shit show as much as I can. It looks horrendous Friday afternoon for the Arnold Palmer in terms of wind. So with that, I've went ahead and brought up the PGA Tour leaderboard just to get a feel for some tee times. And of course, these are the tee times for tomorrow, which means these guys will be teeing off in the afternoon on Friday. So I'm going to be very, very cautious, if not outright removing them from my considerations. And while you are correct in that, James very astutely has pointed out that there have been a lot of weather delays. I am not too terribly concerned with that because there has not been a lot of rain. So the course is going to be fine. It's going to be fast and it's going to be firm. But Saturday morning doesn't look like it brings much of a reprieve either. So these players are going to be stuck playing in this weather regardless. So I don't see too much of a chance of a weather delay. Now, if they can't hold the balls on the green or whatnot, then it'd be a different factor. But you would have to think that the agronomy staff is well aware of the wind that is forecast. I wouldn't be surprised if they slowed the greens down a little bit because of that. I just don't see any weather delays because of this. Of course, I could be wrong, but all I can do is go by that forecast. So I am going to be pretty heavily leaning into the Thursday PM, Friday AM. So your Thursday morning and Friday afternoon players might be getting the worst end of the draw. Minwoo Lee has been pretty popular. See Tagala coming on down. Aaron Wise is always popular in difficult events. Your first featured group, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Justin Thomas are in the morning, which really stinks because one of the first win wagers I bet was Matt Fitzpatrick. He ends up being on the quote bad end of the draw. So there's your first feature group. You also have Chris Kirk, Sam Burns, Jordan Spieth in the morning. Will Zalatoris, Victor Hovland, and Jason Day are in the morning. So these people or these players here look like they're getting the worst end of the draw. Sung Jae as well. Scrolling on down. Don't know of anyone else that might be all that popular, but certainly Sung Jae, Seamus Power, Jason Day, Victor Hovland, Will Zalatoris. There's your feature groups that are in the Thursday morning and Friday afternoon, seemingly the worst part of the draw. So conversely, some of the players, and especially the feature groups that look like they got the better end of the draw. Scrolling on down here, no one really sticks out until we get to the first feature group in the afternoon. John Rahm, Xander, and Colin Morikawa. Tony Finau, Justin Rose, Patrick Cantlay, Ricky Fowler, Shane Lowry, Homa, Rory, Terrell Hatton, Billy Horschel, Tom Kim, Hideki, Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood, Gary Woodland, who always plays well in the wind as well. So those are the players, and then all the way down, Adrian Meronk. I know he's been pretty popular with Darnell, who has jumped into chat the past couple of weeks, so hopefully he'll join us as well a little bit later. But those are the players that seemingly have the better end of the draw this Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. I will keep this up just in case we want to refer back to it. But let's go ahead and move to Fantasy National. I've went ahead and put the moderate and windy filter on. And again, I'm just going by the forecast. The forecast looks like it is worst for Friday afternoon. The wind generally picks up in the afternoons as well, so that's why I'm going to try and stay away from as many Friday afternoon players as I can. Now, if there are weather delays, there's no way I can take that into account. So take that information with what you will. But your best players in moderate and windy conditions in the past 14 months, dating back to the beginning of 2022. Those players have been Justin Thomas, Sung Jae, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Keegan Bradley, Rory, Xander, and Matt Fitzpatrick. So a lot of these players actually have the bad end of the draw, if you will. Fitzpatrick was in the morning wave tomorrow. Scheffler's in the morning wave tomorrow. Believe Zalatoris is in the morning wave tomorrow. So these players have played very, very well in the wind. And I'm also looking, Justin Thomas is also there. So these players have played very well in the wind. So perhaps you give them only a slight downgrade as opposed to a major one or removing them altogether. If you keep scrolling on down, some other players that have been very good in the wind: Max Homa, Shane Lowry, Chris Kirk, Sam Burns, Aaron Wise, Jordan Spieth, Cameron Young, Tom Hoagie, Sahith Theegala, and Hideki. There's your top 20 right there. And then I'll scroll down, and it looks like you can get about the top 30 in there in your view. So there's a look at your top wind players in the past 14 months. Conversely, I would give these players a significant downgrade regardless of where they are. It looks like everybody in the field is going to be dealing with wind, and especially if they are Thursday morning and Friday afternoon, emphasis on Friday afternoon, I would really, really downgrade these players, if not remove them entirely, unless you are really thinking they're going to be unique or you're not scared of the wind. Players like Justin Suh, Harris English, Ches Reavie, Minwoo Lee. However, it's only 7 rounds, so take that with a little bit of grain of salt, but he has not played well when it's been moderate or windy. Others here, Joel Damon has been very, very bad in the wind. Ricky Fowler has been very bad in the wind the last 14 months. Hayden Buckley, Joseph Bramlett, and then on down the list here, Higo, Ben On, so on and so forth. So I would give these players a pretty significant downgrade, again, regardless of what side of the draw they're on. If they are playing tomorrow morning and Friday afternoon, I would almost remove them entirely since they are bad in the wind and it looks like they're going to get the worst end of the draw. But definitely wanted to keep you up to date on the wind forecast and the players that perform best in the wind. But this has just reinforced my belief this week that the Arnold Palmer will play difficult. So your top players when a round has been difficult in that same timeline, the same 14 months, dating back to the beginning of 2022. Those players are Rory, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Will Zalatoris, Keegan, Sungjae, Shane Lowry, Max Homa, Jon Rahm, and Justin Thomas. Again, a lot of overlap here. A lot of these same players have the seemingly more difficult end of the draw. Scotty Scheffler, Fitzpatrick, Willie Z, Sungjae, Justin Thomas. Now, is that going to be enough of a detriment to where maybe they even miss the cut or they are clunker made cuts? Perhaps. But they've also shown that they are at their best in difficult situations, so it might not affect them. Again, I am giving you the statistics. You can use them however you deem fit and what narrative you want to go with. But knowing that Jon Rahm is on the good side of the draw, has been very good in the wind and very good when it's difficult, there's a reason why I'm probably going to have a whole lot of Jon Rahm, beyond the fact that it's just Jon Rahm. So take that information how you will. moving forward tonight. My suggestion is to use the players that are Thursday PM, Friday AM. But as James pointed out a little bit earlier, there have been weather delays, and it could happen. I don't see it happening, but it very well could, and that would throw in a whole lot, a wrench into everything. But I just don't see it happening since the course, since it's been pretty dry down there and there's no rain in the forecast. So with all that said, we've covered the difficult and the wind. I'll leave this on here, but let's move to my mixed condition model for what I have built for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And we talked all week that I think it's just a ball striking course. Strokes gain approach is going to be the main facet. So I've got 15% in strokes gain approach. I also have 15% in par fives. You have to score on these par fives. They are your really only great scoring opportunities. I'll very quickly bring up the course breakdown. Your 16th, 15th, 17th. So the four easiest holes are the four par fives, but you very quickly get into about 1/10 under par after the par fives. You just have to be able to score on these par fives, and really it's not even a bunch of eagle chances. You've got the very good eagle chance on the par 5 16th, but really it's just about getting the birdies on the par fives, and then perhaps finding a birdie here and there on a par 4, like the par 4 13th, the par 4 13th, which plays the 13th easiest, par 4 10th, the shorter par 4s. You can try to find your birdie there. Otherwise, you are looking at pars being very, very good scores. So you got to score on these par 5s, so 15% in those. 10% in putting since the start of this calendar year. And we looked at this at the end of the show Monday night. Nothing to do with Lightning Bermuda. Nothing to do with historical form. I wanted recent putting performance because the winners at the Arnold Palmer have historically come into the Arnold Palmer with a hot putter, if not just being a very good putter in general. So again, no filter for green type, green speed. I just wanted to see who has been the best putters very, very recently, and that means in the past 2 months. So 10% in putting in the past 2 months, 10% in 200 plus proximity. We talked about that all week, how 30% of the approach shots come from 200 plus here at Bay Hill. It's just a big factor. 10% in all par 4s. If you're not going to be scoring on the par 5s, you're going to be losing a lot of ground. However, if you are able to play these par 4s pretty well, you won't slide too far back, as the par 3s don't have a lot to offer here at Bay Hill in terms of strokes gained. Your best scoring opportunities are indeed on those par 5s and those short par 4s. So I do have 10% on all par 4s, and then you will see I've got the last little 5% here in the 400 to 450. So 10% in all par 4s, and extra 5 in the short par 4s or short-ish par 4s. And then 5% to round out every other metric. And again, this is repeating something that I've done a little bit when courses are difficult. I did this for the Honda last week to mixed success. It was certainly better than last year's Honda mixed condition model, but this strategy definitely worked at the Farmers, which is always difficult, in which there seems to be just a lot of metrics that matter when a course is difficult. So 5% in all of these metrics, strokes gained off the tee, again adding to the ball striking. I did end up using long rough as the filter for strokes gained around the green. The rough has always been long here. It generally is about 4 inches long. I didn't want to do anything with lightning greens and like say around the green and all that stuff are difficult. So I just did with long rough. But if you disagree and you think you should, or I should have put difficult or maybe scrambling, that's a bit of the mixed condition model that you can certainly argue with me about. This is where I chose to put my around the green type metrics, around the green, scrambling, sand saves, etc., etc. 5% in bogeys avoided when it's difficult, 5% in doubles avoided when it was difficult, or when it is difficult. Just like the Honda, I think double avoidance is going to be something. I wanted to put a little bit more percentage in bogeys avoided, and quite honestly, I just ran out of percent. 5% in good drives gained. If players are not hitting the fairways, I want to see if they are still able to hit the green when missing fairways. And with the emphasis in 200 plus, if guys are clubbing down to make sure they hit the fairway to be good in a statistic like good drives gained, then 200 plus proximity will catch that lot of players that might skirt the system, if you will, in being technically a good drive by hitting 3-wood. So 5% in good drives gained when it's difficult, 5% in greens when it's difficult, and I rounded it out with the par 3s, specifically 200 to 225. We talked about this Monday night and how I think this is going to be the only range that matters for par 3s. So there's a look at a mixed condition model. I've given you a few ideas on some perhaps metrics or filters that I could be incorrect about this week for the Arnold Palmer, but I feel pretty good looking back at historical leaderboards and looking at last year's mixed condition model and adjusting for what I did well and what I didn't. So with that, let's go ahead and move on over to Microsoft Excel. All right, so the reveal of my rankings for the Arnold Palmer. Number 1 is Rory McIlroy, factoring in the analytics, the course value, and the projected ownership. And he is the number 1 projected owned player. Doesn't matter. He's 5 for 5 in the past 5 years here. Average finish of a 7th. Rory just loves this place. And the analytics are pretty high on him as well. So Rory is my number 1 player. Sung Jae, number 2. Scotty Scheffler, number 3. John Rahm, 4th. Max Homa, 5th. Chris Kirk, Xander, Gary Woodland, Jason Day, and Tom Hoge round out the top 10. Do note that this is not taking into consideration their tee time. This is just from the analytics, their previous course performance, and their projected ownership. When looking at the players and some of the best tee times, as in getting the good half of the draw, Rory, John Rahm, no, I think, didn't Rory have a morning? I thought Rory had the morning. No, I guess he didn't. He had the afternoon. This is why I've kept it up, because I'm going to have to refer to it. So yes, there's Rory right there. He is in the afternoon. So Rory has the better half of the draw seemingly. Rahm, better half of the draw. Xander, better half of the draw. Max Homa. So I would certainly, in my own rankings, move them up. But just reiteration, this does not factor in their tee time. It is just by the analytics, the previous course history, and the projected ownership. And you can see I've put quite a bit of emphasis in the previous course history. We talked about this a little bit on Monday. I really dug into it Monday morning over on Twitch, and then had a little bit of research, or at least put it in the summary of the research, that players historically that have played well at the Arnold Palmer play well year over year over year, and those who don't. It's just seemingly one of those courses. So, with the exception of maybe Tom Hoge, in which I understand why he's 10th, with the exception of Tom Hoge, I don't really have a gripe with too much in my top 10. I mean, Rory and Rahm, and you can argue the ordering for sure. Xander even. Chris Kirk's getting helped a little bit by his win last week at the Honda, but he's also played this event very, very well. Look at that course value. He's been very, very good here as well. So, again, not really a surprise that he rises in my rankings. Gary Woodland likes long courses. The analytics have been very good for him for this week. Now, he's only played this event once, but he did finish 5th here. So take that what you will. And moving on down, like Fitzpatrick, even though he's a little bit lower in the analytics, he's really rising due to the fact that he's played this event well. Terrell Hatton, former champion. Keegan's played well here, etc., etc. So enough of me rambling on about my rankings. Let's get into the price board and let me give you my thoughts for specific price ranges as it pertains to the Arnold Palmer, if I could talk. So in the 10Ks, you have 3 players this week: Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy, and you see that they are 1st, 3rd, and 4th. I am probably going to use all 3. If I am low on one, it is Scheffler, only because of the tee time. Rory, that is a lot of chalk to eat. You probably should eat it if you are gravitating towards the 10s. He is the cheapest of the 10Ks. Loves this course. Again, number 1 in my rankings. Now, the thing that is scary with Rory, he's not been great with the putter. And I put this on social media. Somebody asked late Monday evening if I revealed who those players were in the show. And while I didn't specifically say who they were, I kind of went through a few players. Rory actually doesn't follow the pattern of winners the past, I think, 6 years here at Bay Hill. He has not gained in putting in the past 2 tournaments. So his recent putting form is off. So that is a little bit of a reason to be wary if you want to fade the chalk. It's a dangerous game that you would play. I don't know if I would do it, but I am certainly going to have my fair share of Rory, but I will try to look elsewhere if I can, because 20% is a whole lot. But again, all 3 of these players are probably going to be pretty darn good. So in the 10Ks, I'm actually going to make Jon Rahm my number 1 player in the 10Ks. Yes, he's the most expensive, but you're giving me roughly 5% less ownership, at least by the projections. I don't know if it ends up being 5% less ownership, but I do think it's going to be less than Rory because of the price. So I am not afraid to come to Rahm at 11K, because I think I have a 6K play or 2 to help balance out my roster. So I'll go Jon Rahm 1st, Rory 2nd, and Scotty Scheffler 3rd. And I do think Scotty Scheffler will be fine, even though he has the bad end of the draw. But I will put him 3rd simply because he is on supposedly the bad end of the draw. Moving into the 9Ks, Max Homa, JT, Colin Morikawa, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, and Victor Hovland. Again, JT hasn't played this event in 5 years, so this number is artificially high for him. But a lot of the Fantasy National people members are actually off of JT this week, even though he's so good in the wind. The irons have still not really been JT caliber. The putting and his 200 plus proximity has been really, really bad. Really bad. Now, he's been very good around the green. He's been solid at avoiding bogeys and double bogeys. I know those are off your screen, but he's been pretty solid at those metrics. And of course, he's devouring par 5s. But having not played this event in 5 years, he is on the bad side of the draw. Justin Thomas gives me a little bit of concern. Morikawa does not. I do like Colin Morikawa. We've seen him perform well in the wind already. He's very good when it's difficult. He's actually been very, very good at scoring on the par 5s. You see the 200 plus proximity. There's a lot to like with Collin Morikawa, so I will be using quite a bit of Collin Morikawa. Will Zalatoris is interesting. The irons are skeptical, I guess would be the best word to use. He's been fine on the par 5s. He's actually been very good recently with putting, even though he's still pretty shaky. I mean, analytics-wise, he's been 23rd in this calendar year in putting. 17% is quite a bit for Will Zalatoris. I don't know if I can get there. It's a fade. I can't say it's a full fade, but it is a fade. Now, somebody I am going to full fade, and I will lose if he does play well, is Tony Finau. He's not played this event well. You see the course value here. He's just not played this event well when he's played it. Now, the analytics love him. He's 3rd, 4th in irons, 7th in par 5s. Everything lines up analytically for him. This is one of the players that I'm choosing to lose to. You can't cover every single base. So I'm just concerned with the course form or course history. I will choose to go with that for Tony Finau, and will lose to him this week if he plays well. Xander, I really like, top 10 in my rankings. I'm actually pretty comfortable with Cantlay. Again, he's not played this event in the past 5 years, so this number's artificially high. But I think Cantlay is going to be fine. He will definitely need to be a much better putter than 54th if he wants to contend. But I do like the fact that he is projected at 10.5% right now. Victor Hovland's played well here. Not a whole lot to say. He's a lot like Cantlay in that regard. The putter needs to be better, but he's been devouring par 5s. The irons have been, basically on Cantlay's level, which hasn't been great. The 200 plus procs is fine for both. Yeah. Now, if this does become more of an around the green type game or tournament, Victor Hovland could struggle, but he has gotten better this year. Remember, this is with that filter of long rough. He has gotten better in strokes gained around the green. We've seen that in a couple of tournaments lately. So I actually think I'm pretty comfortable firing up Victor Hovland a little bit, even if he is on the bad end of the draw. And again, I'm going to have to come over to the PGA Tour leaderboard, as I don't have these tee times memorized. Yeah, so Victor Hovland is on the bad end of the draw, supposedly, tomorrow morning, and then gets a whole lot of wind Friday afternoon. So I still think Victor Hovland would be fine, but you might want to try to limit it somewhat. So in the 9Ks, I think I'm gonna have to go Max Homa number 1. I mean, he's just playing fantastic golf. He's on the right side of the draw. He's played this event extremely well. He's number 1 putter this calendar year, number 2 in par 4s, which is what you barely see, at least color-wise. So I'll go Homa as my number 1 player in the 9Ks. I'm actually going to follow that up with Collin Morikawa, then Xander. That's where I've been gravitating a lot in the 9Ks, and yes, a lot of that is chalk, but again, I'm hoping going to Rahm in the 10Ks will gain me a tad bit of uniqueness from Rory. And as I mentioned, I'm not afraid to go into the 6Ks. I think there's a couple of players that might be useful down there. But elsewhere, like Hovland's fine, Cantlay should be fine, Finau's a full fade, Zalatoris is a fade, Thomas, 9.5% on Justin Thomas seems ludicrous. It really does seem ludicrous. But perhaps I'm going to have to think about some Justin Thomas just because of how low projected owned he is. But man, the irons haven't been good, and he's been really bad from 200 plus. So you got reason to be cautious on Justin Thomas. But for the caliber of player Justin Thomas is, to see 9.5% in what is essentially a major style field is pretty impressive and crazy to see. All right, moving to the 8s. Sung Jae, Matt Fitzpatrick, Cam Young, Jordan Spieth, J-Day, Tom Kim, Terrell Hatton, Hideki, Sam Burns, and Keith Mitchell. J-Day, I think, is going to be pretty darn useful, and you see a lot of the members at Fantasy National gravitating towards him. He's the number 2 putter behind Max Homa, and I talked this week how I think putting form, regardless if it's on Bermuda, fast, slow, whatever, I just think it's going to be a big factor, and he's been number 2. He's also been essentially top 20 in irons this PGA Tour season. So J-Day's playing very, very well right now. He's also 2nd in par 4s, 5th off the tee. His short game is always there. This is a little bit more chalk, but it's chalk that I'm going to use. J-Day seems like a pretty good play this week. Sung Jae and Matt Fitzpatrick, even though they're both on the bad end of the draw, I don't think I'll be able to get away from either of these players. Now, Sung Jae has played this event immaculately. You see from his course value. I mean, Fitzpatrick's played it great as well. But Sung Jae, 4th in par 5s, 2nd in 200 plus. He's also 10th off the tee and 4th at avoiding bogeys. So there's a lot to like here with Sung Jae. That's why he's getting a whole lot of love. Fitzpatrick's irons have been scary. He's not been the best at par 4s. The big draw to Fitzpatrick, especially since he's on the bad side of the draw, you look at the double and the bogey avoidance. Both of them 2nd in this field. So even though he is on the bad end of the draw, he is a grinder, a scrambler, or however you want to denote it. He grinds out his pars, and pars are good scores here at Bay Hill. So I'm not too worried about Fitzpatrick. I would have liked it if he was on the better end of the draw, but I'm still going to use some Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't think I want any Cam Young. The putter is not there, and he's actually not taken advantage of par 5s recently, which is a little bit worrisome for Cam Young. Jordan Spieth, don't get caught up in this course value. He's only played here once in the past 5 years. You see he's had some troubles with his metrics in the ones that we've put a lot of weight into this week. Tom Kim, I mean, for as much as I generally think that longer courses don't suit him well, he seems to play okay. 8.5% is low on a quality player. I don't really have a strong feeling on Tom Kim. If you like the ownership, or if you like the price, if you like the player, then fire him up. If not, or if you have others to go to, then okay. I hate to be lukewarm or uncommitted, but that's just where I am on Tom Kim. Terrell Hatton getting a whole lot of love, former champion, a lot like Matt Fitzpatrick. He's a grinder. He will grind out his bogeys, or grind out his pars to avoid bogeys and such. He's been okay on the par 5s as well, but he's just generally played this event very, very well. And somebody to take a look at, even though the analytics aren't in love with him, especially with the irons, and he will have to be a whole lot better at par 5s, take a look at Sam Burns. These are Bermuda greens, and he's been very hot with the putter lately. So take a look at Sam Burns. I do like Sam Burns at 8,100 this week. And Keith Mitchell, I think I would gravitate more towards Keith Mitchell in outright markets as opposed to DFS. He seems pretty volatile. I could see him top 5ing. I could see him missing the cut. So if you're willing to take that risk in DFS, by all means, I generally like to play those players or have my exposure to those players in outright wagers. So in the 8Ks, again, I'm not going to be able to get away from Jason Day. That's chalk I'll eat. Sung Jae I won't be able to get away from. I'm not scared of Fitzpatrick, even though he's on the bad side of the draw. He's a grinder. Do what you will with Tom Kim. I'm just lukewarm on him. But I really do like Sam Burns at 8,100. At 9% is reasonable. I think that's probably a shade under what I would have expected. So if I get him at 10, if I get him in single digits, sub 10%, I'll be pretty happy. I think I'm going to have a little bit of Sam Burns going on the putter. Moving to the upper sevens. Not a lot here that I like, even though some of these rankings are pretty good. Like Chris Kirk, again, coming off the win, and he's played this event very, very well. I understand it, but that was a brutal test at the Honda. Now, yes, it's not far travel, but it's just really tough to play back-to-back weeks very well. It's tough to win. I mean, I can see a scenario where he plays pretty well, but I imagine it'll be a little bit chalky as well. So I have enough reason to avoid Chris Kirk. The par fives are lackluster. His off the tee game has been lackluster as well. Now, what Chris Kirk does bring to the table is the number one double bogey avoidance. So if you think double bogeys are going to be a big factor, then take a long look at Chris Kirk. But I can take it or leave it. I think he'll probably be a little bit more owned than 12.5%. So I'm a little bit less confident in Kirk. Ricky, man, he's played very, very well lately. I mean, look at the irons. They're top 5 in this loaded field. Top 5 in this loaded field with his irons since this PGA Tour season, since the Fortinet. It's also been good with the putter. Now, the 200 plus procs issue. That's a big issue. 12.5% is a little bit high for my liking on Ricky. I'll probably have him in a lineup or two, but man, for the same reason, I have the same feeling on Ricky Fowler that I do on Tom Kim for different reasons. Tom Kim, I'm on the fence. I can go either way. Ricky Fowler, I'm on the fence. I can go either way, but it's more so the fact that Ricky has played well here and his irons have been good, but I'm also very, very scared of his 200 plus, and I'm very scared of his wind performance lately. So there you go. Another non-committal answer, but at least this one I have reasoning or thought process behind it, whereas Tom Kim, I'm just kind of like, just being honest. Keegan, I know he rates out well, but that putter is going to fall apart eventually, and it backfired for me. What was it, at the Genesis, I believe? Because I used a little bit of Keegan, and I even mentioned it Wednesday that week. Said that putter is going to fall apart eventually, and when it does, you don't want any part of Keegan. It fell apart at the Genesis. He missed the cut. He's also not been taking advantage of par fives. I don't think I want to play Keegan. So Keegan and Tony Finau are probably my two bold full fades. Now, Keegan has played this event very, very well, but I just think the putter will come back down to earth eventually. I like Tommy Fleetwood a lot at 7,500, but he's not going to be unique by any stretch of the imagination. So I have not been coming into the upper sevens much at all. I might grab a Ricky. A Corey Connors might be okay if I want to take the strokes gained approach look at it, especially if he's in the afternoon. Again, not memorizing these tee times. I don't know if he's in the afternoon tomorrow or in the morning. If he's tomorrow morning, I'm probably going to be much more inclined to full fade Connors. But I haven't been gravitating towards the upper sevens much at all. Tommy Fleetwood I like. That's more mid seven, but like I said, I'll grab a Ricky every once in a while. Maybe a Connors if he's on the good side of the draw, but there's not a lot in the upper sevens I've been gravitating towards. So we move to the low sevens. Again, he's not going to be unique, but Gary Woodland is somebody to take a long look at. 6th in irons. The putter's been bad, but he's shown that he can get hot with it. He's also the number 1 player in 200 plus procs. He's number 8 in off the tee. So, and the one time he's played here, it was very, very good. Granted, it's only one time, but I think Gary Woodland should be pretty good. He generally plays long courses well, and he plays well in the wind. Bay Hill is long, and it's supposed to be windy this week, so sometimes it's as simple as that. So I like Gary Woodland. I won't be able to get away from a lot of that chalk. Again, he's the number 1 strokes gained approach player. take a look at Tom Hoge. He's actually played well here too. So take a look at Tom Hoge. He's not been bad with the putter. He's 5th in 200 plus procs. Par 4s have been good. Now, off the tee is an issue, sure. Around the green has been an issue. So if he's not finding fairways, if he's not hitting his greens, or if the irons are not, I'll say top 15 or so in the field, he doesn't have the distance, and he doesn't have the dependable putter that all of these other players have to make up for a bad around the green or a bad off the tee week. He needs to really be finding fairways and hitting irons very well. But you see, he is second in good drives gained when it's been difficult. So I like Hoge at 7,300. Let's see. Otherwise, like a lot of these players are on the bad side of the draw. Like I know a lot of the community here at Calls has gravitated towards Minwoo Lee. Okay, that's fine. He's on the bad side of the draw. That's all I got for you. I mean, he's played this event one time. So just like I can't encourage you to take too much from Gary Woodland, I can't encourage you to discourage Minwoo Lee because this has only been one time. And he played well last week. So I'm just not there with him. Aaron Wise, I'm just always going to have a win ticket on Aaron Wise, so it's easier for me to fade him in DFS. Moronk, kind of the same thing with Minwoo Lee. He didn't play as well as Minwoo Lee last week, but the analytics are higher on Minwoo Lee for what it's worth. Even though he's rated 102nd, a lot of that is due to the fact that he's played this event one time, whereas Moronk has never played it. Let's see. Somebody that's interesting, but man, the analytics hate him is Bezadenhout. This doesn't feel like a good Christian Bezadenhout course. It's long. You have to be accurate. But yet, he's been very, very good here. And a lot of that is probably due to the fact of the around the green. Where'd he go? There. Now, he's only been 46th since the beginning of last year in long rough, but he is a short game player. And if memory serves, I think he's been very, very good around the green here, specifically at Bay Hill. So it makes some sense. But man, the analytics hate him. I mean, par 5s, he's not done well at all. The irons have been terrible. 200 plus proximity has been really bad. So this is your classic case of, are you going with the analytics or are you going with the course form? Course form says to take Christian Bezadenhout. Analytics says stay completely away. I'm probably going to use him a time or two, to be honest with you, just because there's not a ton in the lower sevens that I've been gravitating towards either, except for, like I mentioned, Tom Hoge. I just don't have a good feeling on Minwoo Lee or Adrian Moronk, so really Bezadenhout's been kind of filling in that gap in the price for me, kind of by default. I don't really like a whole lot of these other options. KH Lee, no thank you. Sam Ryder, even though the putter is there, he's not doing it with the par 5s. He's never played well here. This doesn't feel like a good Sam Ryder course. Sepp Straka is just being really bad here. Harris English, anytime I think it's comfortable to back Harris English, he plays like dog shit, so I just don't know what to do with Harris English. That's what I have for you in the lower sevens. And, of course, feel free to throw out any players that you want to look at or take a longer look at, scrutinize a little bit throughout the show. But let me come into the 6Ks here. I've got, like I said, a couple of players to recommend to you all that I think will be somewhat useful this week. Take a look at Eric Cole again. Even though he's not played this course, the par 5s, he's very, very good. He's coming in with a very hot putter. The irons and the 200 plus procs has been very, very good. So I think Eric Cole is probably going to have a decent tournament. Again, I'm not going to say he's going to runner up, But for 6,900 and 4% projected ownership, I think he's going to be serviceable. So take a long look at Eric Cole again. Now, your fellow contestants are gravitating towards Ben Griffin. This was somebody else I was going to have you take a look at. You see the irons. The putter's been good. One of his very, very early successes was at the Bermuda, which was windy, coastal-ish course, so it fits. Take a look at Ben Griffin. Now, he will not be unique in terms of 6Ks, but I think it's also a solid play. One other player that I do want to bring to your attention is the name at 6,500, Ben Taylor. And it's all based on two things. The irons have been pretty good for somebody that is not even high 6K. For medium 6K, he's been pretty good with the irons, but he has been third. He is the third best putter this calendar year. He is deadly on the greens. I think Bermuda is going to suit him better than Poa has. I like Ben Taylor quite a bit if you're going into the stars and scrubs type builds. And those are the builds I'm trying to do in these types of contests, since they are essentially major style formats, major style contests. A lot of players or contestants generally build balanced teams. So the more that you're willing to come into the 6Ks, the more you're willing to take a chance on a sub 5, sub 4% player, you're probably looking at a pretty unique lineup. You might have one duplicate. So I really like Ben Taylor, and a lot of that is riding on the putter. So if he has a bad putting week, he's shot. But I do like Ben Taylor for that. So there's a look at the price board and how I see the various ranges working out. We are almost on time and we haven't even made lineups yet. So let me run through tiers lineups here very, very quickly. And we'll start making some classic lineups. Tier 1, you have Jon Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy. It's the same thing that I talked about in classic lineups in the 10Ks. I think I'm going to make Rahm my choice. I think Rory is fine. Rory's probably the highest owned of these three. I would avoid Scheffler because of the tee time. But I think Rory or Rahm, either one are fine. Actually, sorry, Rahm or Rory, either one are fine. I'll go with Rahm, trying to get a bit of uniqueness because I'm pretty sure I'm going to take some chalk here fairly soon. Tier 2, Max Homa, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Will Zalatoris, and Xander Schauffele. For me, I think the best choice is Max Homa. Colin Morikawa is also a very interesting choice. He's probably the volatile choice, the highest upside. I think he has a pretty good chance to win this week. I think Xander's a pretty comfortable or safe play. So I'll go with Max Homa, trying to balance out the volatility and the safety. And as of right now, they are roughly the same projected ownership. And I know Xander and Homa are on the good side of the draw. That's also adding to their appeal, as opposed to Zalatoris and JT, who are on the bad side of the draw. So I'll go Homa. I don't have a problem with Morikawa, and I don't have a problem with Xander. Any one of those three are fine. I'll go with Homa. Tier 3, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Sungjae, and Cameron Young. Not a lot I like here in Tier 3. I think the chalkiest choice is going to be Sungjae. Probably the best choice. I think Cantlay should be good here. He'll probably be the most unique of these three. I think it's one of these three. If you can afford to take the chalk, take Sungjae. But for whatever reason, Victor Hovland, I think, is where I'm going to go in Tier 3. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling on Victor Hovland, specifically for tiers, this week. So I'll go Victor Hovland. Tier 4, Matt Fitzpatrick, Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, Tom Kim, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki, and Keith Mitchell. Well, if you want to go on course form, Keith Mitchell is a decent play. Jason Day is also a very good play on course form. Tom Kim, the same as I talked about in Classic. If you have a strong feeling one way or the other, take it. Tyrrell Hatton's also a very strong play in terms of course form. The one thing that is scaring me away from completely committing to Fitzpatrick is the fact that he is on the bad side of the draw. Even with that, where's Jason Day? I apologize. I'm going to have to cheat. Where's Jason Day? He's got the bad end of the draw as well. So, bad end of the draw. I don't want any part of Spieth. Bad end of the draw. Tom Kim's on the good end of the draw, I believe. Dang it, I should have looked. I'm just going to have to cheat. Tom Kim, Tyrrell Hatton. Let's see. So there's Sung Jae. Knew he was on the bad end of the draw. Let's see. Looking for... So Finau's on the good end. Looking for... Okay, so Tom Kim does have the good end of the draw. Hideki also has the good end of the draw. There's Tommy Fleetwood. Then Tyrrell Hatton's on the good end of the draw. So in Tier 4, I think you have enough solid choices here that you can go with the good side of the draw, or what I perceive as the good side of the draw. Hatton's going to be very, very chalky. Tom Kim is actually pretty appealing here. Oh boy. But Hideki has played this event very well too. And he's played well in the wind. Oof, that's tough. I'm going to go with Hideki. I can understand why you would go Tom Kim. If you want the course form and you don't mind the chalk, go Tyrrell Hatton. J-Day's fine. He's on the bad side of the draw. Fitzpatrick, I think, will be fine. He's on the bad side of the draw. So give me Hideki in Tier 4. Tier 5, Sam Burns, Shane Lowry, Sahith Theegala, Corey Connors, Billy Horschel, Chris Kirk, and Ricky Fowler. I'm going to go with Sam Burns. Even if he is on the bad side of the draw, I don't remember. We're running out of time, and I know I have a lot of lineups to make. I'm going to go with Sam Burns. Chris Kirk would be fine. I think Ricky will be fine as well. But give me Sam Burns in Tier 5. Lastly, Tier 6, Aaron Wise, Christian Bezadenhout, K.H. Lee, Ben On, Harris English, Sepp Straka, and Ryan Fox. Nothing I like here in Tier 6. Wise is probably the highest rated. No, that's not even Wise. It's Thomas Detry, isn't it? That's Thomas Detry. So, all right, we'll scratch that. I don't know. There's not a lot I like in Tier 6. I guess I'll go with Bezadenhout because we've seen him play well, but I don't like it. But, K.H. Lee, I'm not really thrilled about. Harris English, I don't know. He's played well here too, but anytime I back Harris English, he falls apart. Ben On, maybe. But his irons have been pretty bad. So I guess I'll go with Bezadenhout in Tier 6, but I'm not really all that comfortable with it. Not really comfortable with anything in Tier 6. All right, so there's a look at Tiers contest. Let's start making some classic lineups, see how our fellow contestants are making their lineups. So if we're going to try to duplicate the lineup that we expect to see the most, Rory is the number one projected owned player at the moment at 20.5 or just under 20.5%. And then your fellow contestants are going Will Zalatoris. Sungjae might be a tad bit expensive. Might be going something like Tyrrell Hatton. Coming down to a Tommy Fleetwood. A Gary Woodland. And is Ben Griffin 68 or less? By God, he is. Yep. So there's probably a pretty chalky looking lineup that you could expect for your big GPPs. If your fellow contestants are coming into the 6Ks for Ben Griffin at 9.5%, but you still see it is matching 15.5%. I mean, that's massive amounts of duplication there. If they're not coming into the 6Ks, again, they're bottoming out at Woodland, Fleetwood, Keegan. So as much as I try to use different players, this is just where our fellow contestants are seemingly going. So Keegan, maybe like a Keith Mitchell. We'll go Sungjae, and 10-6 is exactly Rory. So there's another look at a Rory lineup. If they aren't going into the 6Ks, they're coming down to Sungjae instead of Zalatoris, and then really hammering the mid-sevens. If they're not using Rory, they could be doing something to the effect of, say, like a Colin Morikawa, a Jason Day, Terrell Hatton. We use Keith Mitchell, but he's getting a lot of love. Let's see. Connors, Chris Kirk is getting some. 8,000 is Mitchell, who we just used. So I'll throw in at 7,800 Corey Connors. He's at a little under 11 or a little over 11%. That's a 14% matching lineup. Again, pretty chalky. I imagine you could probably shuffle some of these names around and get a little bit of higher percentage, but just trying to give you an idea of some lineup shells or lineup constructions that your fellow contestants are making. So with that, as I mentioned, if I'm going to try and beat these chalky lineups, I'm going Jon Rahm. I'm getting a little bit less ownership than Rory. Now, I am spending almost $1,000 more, so I'm clearly coming into the 6Ks. Ben Griffin is somebody I won't mind using, even if he is a bit chalky. I mentioned Eric Cole at 6,900, but since I'm using the most expensive player, I'll just go ahead and throw in Ben Taylor into this lineup at 6,500 and save money in that way. So I'll go Ben Taylor, and there are my boundaries, and I'm still left with 8,000 per player to maneuver here. I mentioned I'm not terribly scared of Fitzpatrick and his supposed bad end of the draw. So I'll go with Fitzpatrick. Tom Kim is quite interesting. I like Sam Burns at 8,100 with the putting, kind of like Ben Taylor. This is on that putting narrative. So Sam Burns, Ben Taylor, and then I have a couple of mid-priced sevens here that I can work through. Again, Ricky probably going to be decent. Tommy Fleetwood is chalky, but he's a very, very good play. Gary Woodland's the same. I'm going to throw in Tom Hoge. I like his number one strokes gained approach in this field. He's also been okay in the wind. And this leaves me 7,800 for a Corey Connors if you're there, a Chris Kirk, Ricky. I'll go Tommy Fleetwood, as I am very high on Tommy Fleetwood this week. But you see, that's a 10% or a little bit above 10%, and I'm using a pretty darn chalky player mid-priced. There's absolutely more unique options than Tommy Fleetwood. If you just want to throw in, let's see, I have 300 left. I think Chris Kirk fits into that. Yeah, there's sub 10% if you're back on the Chris Kirk bandwagon this week. And it's legitimate. I mean, he's played this event extraordinarily well, as you can see from this course value. So there's a look at one possible lineup. If you're not wanting to go into the 6Ks, I understand it. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. There's not a whole lot in the lower sevens that I like. Really, I've been treating Eric Cole basically as a 7,000. I mean, yes, he's 6,900, but I've kind of been treating him as a 7,000. But if you're wanting to stay pure or true and not go into the 7,000s, I mean, Bezuidenhout is a worthy speculation based on his course form. Only because I know he's pretty popular among viewers of the channel. I'll throw in Minwoo Lee with this. We've used two low sevens who are relatively unique. We can probably take a little bit of chalk in here. Maybe we can throw Rory into this lineup. Actually, you know what? Let's do Max Homa, and let's try maybe Xander. We haven't thrown Xander in a lineup yet. So Max Homa, Xander. We still have 8,300 per player. Let's see. We could go Tom Kim and Tyrrell Hatton. Now Hatton is very, very chalky, but Tom Kim doesn't seem to be getting a lot of attention. There's an 11%er. And again, Hatton's at 17%. If you can absolutely move him around and gain a lot more uniqueness than there. I think Hideki will be a pretty useful player this week in terms of DFS. There's a sub 10%er again, using Bezuidenhout as your bottom priced guy. I'll do one more lineup construction. Somebody that I just saw out of the corner of my eye. Take a look at Lucas Herbert, and yes, it's kind of the same thing as Bezuidenhout, where the metrics hate him, but he's played this event well. The difference is Bezuidenhout has played this event 3 times. Lucas Herbert only played once at the Arnold Palmer, though he did finish 7th. So Lucas Herbert has a lot of the same things that Christian Bezuidenhout has. He's been terrible with the irons, been terrible at par 5s. He's been doing it all in around the green. And short game in general. Putting has been okay. It's been good. Par 4s have been good. Off the tee is not bad. But he's been 10th around the green. And if this becomes an around the green type tournament, then Lucas Herbert is going to gain a whole lot of value. So only because I caught him out of the corner of my eye, I'm going to throw him in this last lineup. I'll throw him here. As I mentioned, I don't mind using Eric Cole. And, we still have 9,000 per player here that we can move around. Let's see if we can avoid the rest of the 7s. There's not a lot in the 7s that I like. So let's try. Actually, let's go with Keith Mitchell. I know we used him in the chalk lineups, but he's played very, very well here. So if we're going to go on, the course fit narrative, or has played well here before, Herbert, Mitchell, we can go Tyrrell Hatton. I think it's going to be a little bit too chalky, but he does have a good tee time. So let's see what this looks like. We'll definitely need to be unique at the top 2 spots in our lineup here. So this looks like we're going to have to go something with like Max Homa and Justin Thomas. 10.5%. Again, you're using a couple of chalkier players, but you're going with the prior course fit. Tyrrell Hatton, Keith Mitchell, Lucas Herbert. Justin Thomas is one of the most talented players in the world. So even though he hasn't played here in the past 5 years, he's one of the best players in the world. And then Max Homa's played very, very well here as well. So there's a look at some of the lineup shells, lineup roster constructions that I've been toying around with this week for the Arnold Palmer. In the comments of the show, leave what kind of lineups did you play? Did you gravitate towards stars and scrubs? Did you try to build a balanced? Who was your favorite fade, your favorite play, all that stuff? Did you make any wagers? If so, who? Want to hear about all that because, of course, I want to be able to shout out any winners over the weekend for when we go to Sunday night and next week's initial research show. But P and James, thanks for jumping in chat. Always appreciate it. You all jump into chat any chance that you all get when you're able to catch the show. And good luck to your all's wagers and contests, and good luck to everyone else out there who supports the channel, watches, listens, subscribes, all of that. Love what I do to give you my betting and DFS advice from a heavy statistical standpoint, and you all make it worth it. Just love what I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without you all. So thanks. Quick reminder that Friday night will be the Friday Night Chill stream, and we'll do weekend and round 3 and round 4 showdown for the Arnold Palmer. We might get into some baseball too. Baseball's just right around the corner, so we'll definitely be live 9 p.m. Eastern Friday night. But for all the wagers that you have made this week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Puerto Rico Open, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Puerto Rico Open, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.